Right, hello again. Another painting vid. I've got some new goodies for Christmas, starting with the Drider, the framework Drider, which I'm about to put together and paint. I've also got my next dragon and a few other goodies as well, but we're going to start with this because these look like incredibly interesting models. So we're going to start and see how it goes. Right. So it looks like a pretty standard model, very similar to Warhammer. Got our instructions. Clear base, which is an odd choice. I assume sits in there somewhere, somehow. But it's a very strange choice. But here we go. It's fairly fiddly little bits, but it should be fairly easy. Putting it together. So it's coming along. The body you sort of have to squeeze in there, just sort of like slot in rather than glue in. But it's fine. The legs, you just sort of have to wiggle them and to get them into the right position on that side. So doing the same on the other side. There's some interesting things, like some optional things here. Well, I don't know what they are, but we'll work it out. It doesn't actually, because it doesn't say what the optional, it gives letters and numbers, but not the optional things. Also, I can't find what that is, which is odd. But what I'm doing is using my Games Workshop standard Citadel thingies, and I'm using Games Workshop plastic glue. You don't need super. It's pretty easy, and it's holding like it should, which is good. Because some things need super glue. I've also stuck all of these things on their bases. But that's not really important. So the Drider's coming along, heads on. There's also this tiny piece of like poison dripping out of the rear end. Head's coming along. The legs. Legs are all looking great, and it's holding. That's like a bend. I've also started with Freyr. Now, the body, what the body does is it gives you two versions. So you can do a see-through of your lightning. I don't think I'm going to. I'm not going to. It just looks better. I would have to spray it anyway. So, but I will save all of these lightning bits and things and see what turns out better. I'm going to spray those lightning bits and separately as well, and just see what turns out better with the see-through or painted lightning. But everything else is going to all come along. There's the base as well. Which is going to need super gluing rather than plastic gluing, I think. And that is going to bend on the position it's in. And I've also glued all of my onto their bases ready to start. So I've decided to use this hand that's casting some sort of magics. I think it's going to look very good as a contrast of colours. But what you do is you need to glue it to the back of back of the head for balance, to keep it held better. So my intention is to paint the Drider like a Black Widow. So on the back there, what I've done is done some corn red, and then I'm going to layer it up with some brighter reds. On this flesh tone here, what I'm doing is some Nagrath Night on the skin, which I will layer it up. Because I've got this really dry, Drow have this really sort of like mauvish type of skin tone. And I'll paint the hair white, and that magic, those magic wisps, I'm going to paint green as well for some bright contrasts. And then on the actual main body, I'm going to do with greys and start with Skin Light Dinge. That's what's coming up, and it should turn out alright. Alright, so here it is, it's coming along nicely. Done some wild flesh on the wisps of energy here, which I'm going to follow up with some warpstone glow on that to highlight it. I'm going to do the same with this bit of poison that's down under here, dripping there. The body, the main body, flesh I've done with some Xeris purple, and the hair I've done with Corax white. These bits here are also web by the picture on the box, so I'll do those Corax white as well for that. But it's looking quite cool. The rear end here for the Black Widow sort of like symbol. Silver Scarlet. I know on actual Black Widows it's like underneath on the thorax here, but I just prefer it there, and it's sort of much better. On the hair I'm going to do some Drider Violet wash to give that like a purple hint, and then highlight it with some white scar, and the body I'm just about to do with some Scaling Blight Dinge as well. So that's what's coming up. So here's the progress, it's coming along very nicely. Here's the Scaling Blight Dinge on the thorax and everything else, lightly down over the entire thing, just a light dry brush. The poison snapped off while holding it, so it's not really good. Just got to paint over that black. On the body, ready for these webs, I've done some Zendri dust as a base coat, which I'll then build up for a white. Painted the painted the blade and the headpiece and the shoulder piece and lead belcher, which I'm going to wash with some neon oil, and then we'll do some highlights of gold in certain areas. The hair, as you can see, it's got a nice wash of Drider Violet, which I will go over in a moment with white scar. On these leather pieces here, I've done with dried bark, and I'm going to build them up with some browns. And then on these wisps of energy, I've just gone over with some Beeltank green. And then once that wash dries, I will start with some moot green and some highlights. But as you can see, it's coming along very nicely, and it's looking incredibly deadly and scary. On the main body, the carapace as well, what I'm going to do is start highlighting with a bit of Dawnstone, just in certain areas, just to really sort of bring up some of these edges. And then finish it off lastly as well with some Administratum Grey, but that's just for tiniest of highlights. The base is very similar, which I also finished off with some Tyrant Skulls, but I've done it exactly the same sort of light grey scheme. Right, so I am moving on to the highlights of the Administratum Grey, which is just very fine, tiny edging. Just tiniest bit on the end of your brush, just there, and then just highlighting tiny little bits. Just on like that. Just to really raise up these little pieces. There, just to make them start to stand out. So that's the intention for the rest of it, which I'm going to carry on through, and I'll show you the results in a moment. So there's the highlighting on the carapace. It's really sort of like made everything stand out quite dramatically. I'm just going to do on the legs as well. I've also done some more Drider red on the outer lines there, just to highlight those. And after I've done those highlights, I'm going to do some Doom Ball brown on the on the armour, and then we're moving on to some golds. But as you can see, the highlights have come up fantastically well. Right, so all of the highlights on the spider are done on its main body. Right, next I've also done Mornfang brown on the chest piece, and Baneblade brown on that down there, which I'm going to do white on those wraps because they look very spiderish and webbish. So on this fine detail on the blade here, up on the up on that headdress there and along the side there, I'm going to touch it up with some Auric Gold. Again, just using this this tiny brush just to go along the edges. Also on the on the webbing, on the magical power thingy, I'm going to start adding some Scarsnick green for some highlights, I think, for a bit extra, and a little bit of Warboros green as well, just to add some more sort of like magical colour in there for all these greens. I'm also going to start touching up some of the skin just for highlights with some Gene Stealer pink, and on the on the armour and raised edges, I'm just going to do some Skag brown, and then on these buckles and things I'm going to do some lead belcher and bring out that silver. That's it, it's very nearly done, as you can see. And here we have it, she's finished. So I did some orange, some Fire Dragon Bright just on this gem up the top. Hold on, let's turn it up. As you can see, I've also highlighted just some tiny little bits along the spittle. I've done some Stormhost silver on the tip of the blade, and on the gem there, the same red as the back here. I'm just about to do some skull white just on these bits there. That's it. They are done. Ready to destroy my party. I hope you've enjoyed this video anyway. Hit me a like, hit me a subscribe. I'll show you the final product in a minute, and glue it to the base. And here we have it, the finale. I've also done some bone on the teeth and a bit of white and black for the eyes. But there they are. Uncompleted Frameworks Drider. Got a fair bit coming up in some future vids and things. I have just recently got the Dungeons & Lasers Phoenix, as well as the Frameworks Mind Flare, and a few other bits as well. So, but this is going to be hugely detailed and requires a lot of effort. But again, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you in the next one.